Welcome back, everyone. Mr. Talbot here for you again. We're going to be jumping into topic 1.4, and we're going to be looking at state building in the Americas. And when we talk about the Americas, we're talking about both North and South America. So in our kind of videos, our main video today, we're going to focus what's going on here in Mexico and today in Central America, or what's sometimes called Mesoamerica. And then we'll also look at the Inca down in what is today South America. So some things we want to think about that are occurring before all this takes place is the Americas are going to be the last of the continents that are going to have humans migrate to, going back to our out of Africa theory. So if we kind of look at the time scale, understand that, in a sense, human development is starting, 40, 50,000 years behind what's going to happen in Asia and Europe and Africa. So sometimes we're going to think that the people here were more primitive. We're going to see civilization is going to kind of develop a little bit early in Asia, a couple thousand years, but not as much as we might think, given how much earlier humans were in those areas. There's still a lot of debate over how humans got to the Americas. The map here is kind of depicting the land bridge theory that a lot of scholars today are starting to question. There's a lot of skepticism. Some now think there might have been kind of by boat, they would have gone down the coast, but at the end of the day, humans, we have, between, 13,000 BCE and about 15,000 BC, humans are going to be kind of arriving that we know about in different parts of the Americas. And the oldest civilization that's going to develop is going to take place, is going to be the Olmec down in what is today Mexico. And that takes place around 1200 BCE. And they're kind of going to be the first kind of more advanced civilization, the first civilization in the Americas that has writing. To give you some perspective, though, that is, about 1,000 years after what's going to be happening over in Asia with the Sumerians. So kind of a pretty good head start for people in the quote-unquote old world versus the new world, if we're kind of having that European mindset. So as we go on, we're going to see this kind of depicting the Clovis man, who's kind of, we thought for the longest time was the earliest ancestor of bones that we've seen from humans in the Americas, about 13,000 BC. Again, there's more and more research happening, so more and more things that are kind of making us think this. And this will be something that was made by the Olmec. So kind of seeing, again, the advanced enough to do carvings and artwork, and they're going to have writing as well. And that's going to take place in kind of the middle of what is today Mexico, kind of the southern portion of Mexico. So this first video, we're going to kind of look at three different civilizations. We've got the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca. The Maya are the longest lasting of our civilizations in the Americas. The Aztec are going to probably be best known for human sacrifice, and they're going to do some pretty amazing engineering stuff that we're going to look at. But they're going to be around for less than 100 years. Like the Inca, they built the largest empire in the Americas, but again, they're going to be kind of wiped out in less than 100 years, where the Maya are going to be around for about 1,000 years. And kind of the big thing we're looking at over all of this is, for our objective, is how and why states in the America developed and changed over time. And then in our next video, we'll talk about the Mesa Verde, Pueblo people, Chacao, and the Cahokia Indians. But we'll focus on that in our next video. So starting with the Maya, they're going to be less of an empire than what we see with the Aztec and the Inca. So being empires, going to have more of a centralized emperor. The Maya are more kind of like what we would see, what was you would have studied in ancient Greece, where different city-states. And like in ancient Greece, in the Maya, there's going to be, from different time to time, there'll be different city-states are going to have more and more power. One of the most famous cities of the Maya is Chichen Itza. This is all kind of on the Yucatan Peninsula, so southern Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador is kind of where we'd see kind of the heart of the Maya here. Orange. The Olmec would be the yellow here. So each of the Maya city-states has their own ruler, and they are, if I move myself down, going to have their king, occasionally queen, usually king, believe their power comes from God. So that idea of divine right, similar to what we'll see in a lot of civilizations in the old world. Women in Maya society did have the ability rarely to kind of become the leaders. And they could hold other important positions, and they could also be priestesses, which, like we've seen in some of our East Asian civilizations, the priests and priestesses being towards the top of that social class. And then with the Maya, probably best known as for kind of their astronomy. They've made the famous Mayan calendar, which is super duper accurate. I'll tell you more about that in a second. And they're also going to have kind of their own system of writing that uses kind of hieroglyphics, but we're now starting to think, we now realize kind of also made kind of phonetic sounds as well. So I actually had the chance to go to Chichen Itza, which is kind of their famous pyramid and city. It's kind of one of the new wonders of the world. And I'm actually beardless in the bright yellow shirt here. To give you some perspective of how accurately they would place things and how good of astronomers they were and how good of engineers they were, Chichen Itza, if you look here, the shadow's kind of being cast down the side of it, and you can't really see it very well, but at the very bottom of it is a snake's head. And the snake was really important to Maya culture because it's how they helped find fresh water. So they were the place that these things so accurately track the movement of the sun so accurately. This takes place only on the spring and fall equinoxes. So incredible engineers. And at Chichen Itza, another Maya city, where you were allowed to go in the city depended upon your social class. So there'd be, as you would walk around, there'd be these different kind of small half walls kind of that really wouldn't keep anybody that wanted to cross out. But by rule, if you were a priest, you were kind of allowed near, or a ruler kind of allowed near the very city center in the pyramid. And the further out you went, you got the, your artisans, your merchants, and then the further out from that, you get to where the slaves could go. Special circumstances and special events, they would kind of change things. But your average Mayan, except for a day or two a year, couldn't actually go to the pyramid here at Chichen Itza. Our next group we're going to talk about quickly is going to be the Aztec. So the Aztec are also going to be in Mexico, just more central Mexico. They're going to build their capital city, Tenochtitlan, kind of in the middle of a lake. And that is where Mexico City is today. And they have kind of an interesting origin story. They were told that they should wander around central Mexico by their god until they could find a eagle perched on a cactus in the middle of a lake holding a snake in its mouth, which is very, very specific if you think about it. So they wandered around for hundreds of years looking for this. They eventually found it supposedly at what is today Tenochtitlan, and that symbol is now kind of remembered on as kind of the middle of the Mexican flag. So the Aztec, as they're kind of the rulers, they aren't going to have a city state. They're going to conquer their neighbors and rule over them, and they're going to have some beef, particularly with the Tlaxcala here. But once the Aztec conquered you, they would force you to pay a tribute to the emperor, and the tribute came in the form of goods, in food, and also in the case of people that would then be sacrificed. As you might imagine, that creates a lot of dislike for the Aztec, and this is going to be a big problem for them when the Spanish arrive. The Spanish are going to be able to find lots of people in the area that want to fight against the Aztec. So this empire is only going to be around for about 100 years because they kind of come on the scene in around 1420 CE, and the Spanish are going to arrive, about 100 years later. But in that time, they're going to be able to do some really impressive things. They're going to have what are called chinampas, which are going to be kind of these floating gardens that they're able to grow food on. Different pyramids we'll look at shortly. And they kind of are building all this on a swamp. So those are some things. Now, it's always people always kind of think, oh my gosh, how could you believe in human sacrifice? The thing to remember is, this is a time before we have, modern science. And from their perspective, this human sacrifice thing, they viewed it as the gods had sacrificed in the creation of the world. So people should be willing to sacrifice to please the gods. This last picture I'm going to show you for the Aztec is going to be kind of a picture of what is Tenochtitlan. And so you can kind of see how impressive the different pyramids would be. And again, all is kind of being built on a lake. So it's almost, if you kind of seen a picture of Venice, that would be kind of somewhat similar to what was going on in Tenochtitlan, what is today Mexico City at the time. We'll get into the Inca and our other civilizations in the next video.